Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dr. Nasir Sheikh Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nasir, and what's on tap for today? Well, we have got another great video clip, folks, a reaction video to one of our favorite senators, Senator Ted Cruz, grilling witnesses into the Biden crime family. We're talking about the alleged bribes that Biden took, that Hunter Biden got salaries of $1 million a year for doing nothing. So we're going to go to that video clip and our reaction to it. Hope you enjoy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome to each of the witnesses. Mr. Kent, you have been outspoken throughout your career speaking against corruption. And I want to talk about corruption. I want to talk in particular about corruption in the current administration. And I have serious concerns about corruption of President Joe Biden that extends for considerable time, both his time as president and his time as vice president. To take one obvious and troubling example, accounts linked to the Biden family's personal finances received millions of dollars through ties to CEFC China Energy. This is where we get the infamous quote about 10% to the big guy from the Chinese communists. But you've also been involved very directly with Ukraine and corruption in Ukraine. And I will say, you showed real courage speaking out against what I think was the very obvious concerns of corruption of Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden in Ukraine in particular. On November 13th, 2019, you testified to Congress that you had become concerned with Hunter Biden's status as a board member of the Ukrainian natural gas company, Burisma. You said you had raised those concerns to the White House in February of 2015. And in particular, what you said is, I became aware that Hunter Biden was on the board of Burisma. Soon after that, in a briefing call with the National Security Staff of the Office of the Vice President in February of 2015, I raised my concern that Hunter Biden's status as a board member could create a perception of a conflict of interest. Tell me, why did you have this concern about, as you described, a perception of a conflict of interest?
Well, Senator, I can give you and every member of this committee my commitment that I will always raise concerns to members of any administration and to Congress when I have concerns. And so I was made aware of information, and I passed that along to the staff of the Office of the Vice President.
And so why were you concerned? Why were you concerned about Hunter Biden being on the board of Burisma?
The issue at hand was the owner of the company, Zlochevsky, had awarded himself gas contracts. And as I testified both in the impeachment hearings and in the Johnson-Grassley hearings of 2020, our concern was about the corrupt acts of Zlochevsky, the ex-minister, and the FBI had been pursuing freezing his assets. And it was in the interest of the United States to remain at the gold standard of our own actions.
So the Ukrainian oligarch who owned Burisma, there was very substantial evidence of corruption on his part, and he named Hunter Biden to his board of directors. To your knowledge, does Hunter Biden speak Ukrainian?
I've never talked to Hunter Biden, no.
To your knowledge, did he have any knowledge before serving on that board about anything concerning oil or natural gas?
I'm not aware of his CV.
To your knowledge, did Hunter Biden have any qualification whatsoever for that board job other than the fact that his daddy was the sitting vice president at the time?
Senator, no one consulted me about who was on the board of Burisma. There was another American, Kofor Black, who was a former...
Okay, I asked a question. To your knowledge, did Hunter Biden have any qualification to be on that board other than the job his daddy had at the moment?
I am not familiar with his resume, sir.
Okay, he was paid 83...
These guys are absolutely unbelievable. And the way that they continue to do it's just amazing, folks. It's just amazing here when you're taking a look at this. How these guys obfuscate and don't answer the questions immediately. Just a simple thing. Oh, I don't know his CV. Don't know his resume. Don't know nothing about the makeup of the board. Have no idea what could be there. is there any qualification that Hunter Biden had? Educational, previous business experience, previous knowledge of the language, previous knowledge of the country, previous knowledge of gas and electric contract, of gas or energy contracts? Anything at all that you could say that would allow him to be put in a board position of an energy company in a foreign country, other than the fact that, as Ted Cruz says, Daddy was the Vice President of the United States of America. And this guy can't or will not answer those questions, even though Ted Cruz gave him props in the beginning for pointing out corruption previously and alleged corruption. And this guy said that there was a perception is reality, folks. There is something called perception becomes reality, because people look at that and go, you know what? I couldn't get that job. How did he get that job?
$3,000 a month by this Ukrainian oligarch. You're an expert in Ukraine. Have you ever been paid $83,000 a month?
I'm a public servant, sir. I've never served on a corporate board.
So does that mean no, you haven't been paid $83,000 a month?
I have not been paid $83,000 a month, no, sir.
So, look, the concern here is not Hunter Biden's own problems, but rather it is official corruption from the then Vice President of the United States, Joe Biden, and now the President of the United States, Joe Biden. Let me ask you, while his son was on the board of Burisma making $1 million a year, did Joe Biden do anything that benefited the corrupt oligarch who was paying his son?
Vice President Biden led our efforts to fight corruption in Ukraine.
Let me ask you the question again. Did Vice President Joe Biden do anything that benefited the corrupt oligarch who was paying his son $1 million a year?
He did not.
He did not. Well, it's interesting. Someone who disagrees with you, Mr. Kent, is Joe Biden. And I want to read from what he said on January 23rd, 2018 at the Council of Foreign Relations. Quote, this is Joe Biden speaking. And I went over, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kiev. And I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I'd gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, the prosecutor that was investigating Burisma. And they didn't. So Biden continues. I said, no, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said, I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was about 6 hours. I looked at them and said, I'm leaving here in 6 hours. If the prosecutor is not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch, he got fired.
Some bitch, right? Some bitch, son of a bitch, he got fired. Those are Joe Biden's own words. He actually went there. And remember when they went after Trump for the quid pro quo with President Zelensky and that perfect phone call and withholding aid? Maybe, maybe not. And who cares if you're withholding? You're the freaking president of the United States. You can withhold whatever the hell you want, and you can demand whatever the hell you want for whatever you're giving them in terms of aid. And if you say, you know what, you don't follow through with this, you're not getting the aid. You do what we tell you to do, otherwise you're not getting the freaking aid. That is perfectly fine, perfectly legal in any planet, any globe, any place on the earth. But the Democrats don't want to think of it that way. No, or the media, or their acolytes in academia, or the hypocrites in Hollywood. No, this was just a quid pro quo, and Trump, he withheld that aid, and he told them, you better do what I want you to do, otherwise I'm not going to give you the money, I'm not going to give you blankets, I'm not going to give you any food. But Joe Biden can do it and say, I'm not going to give you $1 billion unless you fire the prosecutor, and I'm leaving in 6 hours. And some bitch, they fired the prosecutor. I give him the $1 billion. No quid pro quo for Joe there, right?
Let me ask you something. Do you think Joe Biden holding $1 billion hostage to force the Ukrainian government to fire the prosecutor that is investigating the corrupt
and Stonyfield Organic,
who's paying his son $1 million a year, did getting that prosecutor fired benefit that oligarch?
Thank you, Senator Cruz. Senator Van
Are you going to allow him to answer the question, Madam Chairman?
I am not going to allow him to answer the question.
Why are you covering?
Isn't that typical for the Democrats? They were in charge of the committee. I'm not going to let him. It is Shaheen. This is some idiot in charge, Senator Shaheen. You know, shifty eyes Shaheen, right? She's saying, I'm not going to let him answer that question. Why? Because I'm a wench, and when a wench talks, everybody walks.
Covering for the vice president. Do you not
I'm
want
not-
to answer that question? He said that the vice president
I
did nothing to benefit
I
the
think it's
oligarchs.
unfortunate for you, Senator Cruz, to put in position that are uncomfortable the nominees to be our.
Oh, it's uncomfortable to put them into a position by asking some questions. You're going to put them in an uncomfortable position. You're going to make them cry. They can't handle it. I'm going to be the Grinch and I'm going to say, no, he doesn't get to answer any questions because they're too uncomfortable, those questions, to be asked. They're just here to testify and give us whatever answers we want to hear. How dare you give them questions that make them uneasy, uncomfortable, that they don't want to answer? How dare you give them questions that make them squirm in their seats? How dare you give them questions that make us understand what their thought processes are? No, we don't ask those kind of questions. Of course we don't.
Ambassadors.
Okay, this is
because
his
they
sworn
have-
testimony. This is
I
his sworn
appreciate that,
testimony.
and
I understand that
and
you
he
want to cover
already
for the vice
answered
president.
That he is going to raise those concerns anytime.
Was his
he
testimony
has
true or false that
responsibility.
Biden did nothing to benefit the oligarch?
I don't know
Let him
what his
answer the
testimony
question.
was.
Why are you afraid of him answering the question?
I'm not. I just want to move on because.
But you won't let.
I'm not. I just want to move on. I'm a grumpy old grandma. I just want to move on here. And if my teeth might fall out, if I don't continue doing what I'm doing here. I'm just a grumpy old grandma.
Let him answer.
votes have
I asked
started.
a yes/no question. Will you allow him to answer the yes/no question?
Yes, you can answer yes or no. Thank you.
The prosecutor who was fired by the Ukrainian parliament
So this moron, okay, doesn't answer yes or no at all. This idiot doesn't answer at all, yes or no. No, why would he answer anything? Of course not. Why would he answer? Right? He just goes on a freaking soliloquy. When he's asked to answer a question, he doesn't want to. Now, when he's told not to, he goes ahead and just unbelievable, folks. Unbelievable.
did nothing to investigate Zlochevsky, and everything that Vice President Biden, the State Department, and the U.S. Embassy did acted in good faith to reduce corruption and help the Ukrainian
So
people.
firing him did not benefit the oligarch.
Thank you, Senator.
So that's really what happens, folks. When you get these Democrats in charge of these committees, they don't do a dang thing, okay? They want to hide everything, obfuscate everything, just completely go in a different direction or whatever. And you need people like Ted Cruz to bring these people, at least to answer the questions, make them squirm, do what we can to get the answers and see what we go from there. Anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasir Shaikh Show. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, put your comments below, let us know what you think. My final thought, when you're right, you're right. And when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time, folks. Take care and stay safe.